to the Spirit Podcast.
Welcome, travelers. This is Beck, and tonight we enter sacred territory. Not just sacred in word, but in spirit, in lineage, in fire. This episode isn't a call out. It's a call in to the real ones, the quiet ones, the ones who remember what this was before it became marketable. Because we've reached a moment where the spiritual world, the paranormal world, and the in-between is being dragged under the fluorescent light of spectacle, where prophecy has become performance and ghosts have been handed a price tag. But today, we ask a hard question. What is the cost when the sacred gets sold? And can we reclaim it before it's too late? You already feel it. The shift, the static, the glare of algorithms where reverence used to glow. Let's walk through it together. Not long ago, to be a mystic was to be misunderstood. To carry spiritual sight meant walking the edges of culture, respected by some, feared by others, and often met with silence instead of applause. We didn't live stream the dead. We listened to them. But today, a new breed of spiritual leader has emerged. Not in caves, not in chapels, not under starlight, but in ring lights. They speak in high-polish prophecies with perfect lighting and curated despair. Their visions trend, their egos feast, and the sacred gets swallowed by the scroll. This isn't about gatekeeping, it's about gate honoring, because when anyone can declare themselves a prophet, we forget the cost it once took to bear that fire. This episode is a remembering, not to shame, not to scold, but to re-anchor what was once holy before it was monetized. Because somewhere, the real ones are still here, still tending flame, still walking with reverence, still asking not how many followers do I have, but am I worthy of the ancestors watching me work? So let's begin. They come with soft voices and curated stillness, crystal grids, candlelight, angel numbers at the ready. But if you listen closely, there's something hollow in the hum. What once came through silence and suffering now arrives optimized. You'll hear them say, I received a download, or my guides told me this last night. But what often follows isn't prophecy, it's performance, a hook, a viral moment, a bite-sized apocalypse wrapped in divine language. Because in the age of attention, the sacred has become a set piece, and it's working. Fear sells. Urgency sells. The end of the world? Always trending. So many of these modern mystics don't intend to deceive. They started with sincerity somewhere, but ego is a quiet trickster. It doesn't come shouting. It comes as a dopamine drip every time the algorithm rewards your insight. Every time someone calls you chosen. And before long, you're no longer listening for spirit. You're performing as spirit. You're crafting revelations instead of receiving them. And you forget the difference. There is nothing wrong with being visible, but there is something deeply wrong when sacred insight becomes content. Not every whisper from the veil is meant for public consumption. Not every symbol is for the marketplace. Some things are holy because they are hidden. But in this era, mystery is being replaced with marketing. And soon, we will have a generation who believes spirituality is a branding strategy rather than a path that breaks you open. This isn't a warning, it's a bell tolling, a call back to integrity. Because when the mask of the mystic becomes more compelling than the message, the whole temple cracks. And what's left? Sound bites. Simulated awakenings. and a deep weariness in the souls who actually came here to do the work. Once, to investigate with the paranormal meant entering a place with reverence. You whispered before you spoke. You asked before you recorded. You thanked before you left. Now, we have real estate agents flipping haunted houses like they're limited edition collectibles. TikTok tours through asylums where patients died screaming with hashtags and background music. Ghosts with merch. Places that once held silence, grief, and tragedy, well, they now echo with forced EVP sessions and spirit boxes sold in bulk. And while curiosity has always walked hand in hand with the unknown, we've crossed a line. When the dead become content, something in the living decays. We're seeing the rise of paranormal influencers buying up locations not to honor the history, but to build a brand, to create exclusivity, to gatekeep the grief. Some charge hundreds or thousands for tours, live streams, portal events, and yet never once ask, who still resides here? Do they want us here? Are we disturbing something that shouldn't be disturbed? Now, let me be clear. Not every haunted location is being exploited. There are still investigators with heart, still caretakers who honor the dead, still storytellers who feel the weight of history in their bones. But increasingly, we're seeing a shift from curiosity to consumption, and the spirits, they feel it. Not just ghosts, but place spirits, ancestors, echoes. The veil is not a stage, it's a threshold, and thresholds deserve respect. You cannot scream at the unseen and expect wisdom to answer. You cannot monetize the dead and expect peace in your own house. And now, I'm not saying to stop investigating. I'm saying investigate with soul. Tell stories with respect. Make offerings before merchandise. Because if we keep selling the sacred, don't be surprised when the sacred stops showing up. And worse, when something else shows up instead. If you're still with me, then you're probably one of those people, the ones who sense the current beneath the noise. So here's something you should know. Every Friday, I drop a video-only series called The Beyond Files right here on YouTube. It's strange, funny, and full of clips I'm not supposed to be showing you. And for the ones walking a deeper path, there's the Signal Path. It's a $5 audio tier only on Coffee. Just you and me, no visuals, no distractions, just the truth as it comes through. And if that's calling you, the link's waiting in the description below. In a time like this, where every voice is amplified, where every download is delivered in a TikTok scroll, where fear and fantasy intertwine with frightening ease, discernment is no longer optional. It is devotion. Devotion to truth, devotion to integrity, devotion to the quiet voice that doesn't beg for attention, but speaks only when you are ready to listen. You can feel it, can't you? That subtle shift when someone's message feels off, even if the words sound right. That energetic glitch that says, this is rehearsed. This was written for views, not vision. This isn't spirit, this is strategy. Discernment isn't suspicion. It isn't judgment. It's spiritual literacy. And the spiritually literate know not all light is good. Not all dark is evil, and not every prophecy is sacred just because it's dressed in white robes and big words. We live in a time where many are playing with symbols they do not understand, invoking spirits they do not vet, channeling without anchoring, speaking without listening, and the ones watching, they're starting to believe that this is what it means to walk a spiritual path. Loud, flashy, fear-based, constant. But the real work, it's often small, it's often slow, and it's almost always silent before it speaks. Now, if you're listening to this right now and you've ever doubted your own intuitive voice because it didn't come with thunder, because it didn't go viral, because it didn't feel dramatic enough to be real, well, let me tell you something. You are the one we've been waiting for. Not the loudest, but the most faithful. Not the trendiest, but the truest. Because discernment is a sacred act to ask, is this mine to receive? Is this voice aligned? Is this message medicine or manipulation? That is not paranoia. That is spiritual maturity. And the path ahead, it will belong to those who ask those questions daily, not because they fear the sacred, but because they honor it. When the towers fall and the crowds move on, the ones left standing will be the ones who never needed a stage, the quiet ones. You might not know their names. They don't lead with gifts. They don't brand themselves as prophets, psychics, or sages. They're the woman who walks the woods in silence, the man who prays before he speaks, the elder who listens more than she talks. They're the ones whose altars are made of dirt and bone, not polished for social media. The ones whose spirits speak to them at dawn, not on live streams. And they are still here. They have weathered the rise of charlatans. They have watched the sacred be sold again and again, and yet they remain. They do not chase followers. They follow the flame. They do not perform grief. They tend it. They do not need to be seen to see clearly. And when the noise burns out, when spectacle begins to sour, when people grow weary of synthetic spirituality, these quiet ones will still be here. They will pick up what was dropped. They will repair what was broken. They will whisper truth in a language too old for the algorithm. And the real seekers, the aching, disillusioned, wide-eyed souls who have been burned by performance will find their way to these fires. And they will know this. This is the real thing. So if you're listening to this and you're one of them, stay steady. You don't have to shout. You don't have to sell. You don't have to compete with the noise. Just keep walking. Keep honoring what can't be packaged. Because in the end, the quiet ones will remain, and the sacred will return to their hands. You could have walked away by now. You've seen enough to know how hollow some of this has become. You've watched once sacred words turned into scripts. You've watched the masses gather around voices that echo louder but say less. But you're still here. Why? Because you remember what it felt like the first time Spirit brushed the edge of your awareness. When a message came through that cracked you open. When the veil parted for just a breath and something real stood with you in the dark. You remember that moment, and nothing that came after, no trend, no betrayal, no mockery could ever erase it. And that's why you still do this. Not for numbers, not for clout, not for relevance in a spinning world. You do it because something sacred chose you to help carry it. And even when the work is thankless, even when you feel like a voice in the wind, even when you're dismissed as just another one of those spiritual people, you still rise. You still speak. You still listen to what comes through. Because deep down, you know that this path, this calling, was never about being seen. It was about being true. You didn't choose this work for the spotlight. You chose it for the flame. And that flame, though it flickers, has never gone out. So, let them keep shouting. Let them buy haunted houses and dress ghosts in logos. Let them sell prophecy like fast food. Because while they build empires, you are building altars. While they gather fans, you're gathering souls. While they chase virality, you are tending something eternal. And in the end, that's what will remain. Thank you for walking this one with me in a time when spectacle is cheap and silence is rare. You chose to sit in something honest, not flashy, not loud, just real. And that alone, that's how the sacred returns. To those who still make offerings, to those who still ask permission, to those who remember that the dead are not attractions, and that prophecy, true prophecy, requires humility, not hashtags. So, if you've ever wondered whether your quiet path matters, if your altar in the corner counts, if your words never shared are worth anything, let me remind you, you are the fire they can't fake. You are the truth they can't imitate. You are the one the sacred still trusts, and no algorithm can touch that. Until next time, keep the flame steady, keep the work sacred, and remember, the quiet ones will remain.